Dear students, myself Kiran MP. I am working as assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering in Government Engineering College, Kushalnagar. In previous sessions, we had a discussion about what actually HTML tables are. And I said HTML tables are usually a collection of rows and columns, and we had a discussion about the two HTML elements, that is table row as well as table data cell. Also we had a discussion about HTML table headings, what actually table headings are, what is the need of table headings. Also we had a discussion about, suppose in any case if I want a single data cell to span over multiple cells either in row wise or in column wise, how we can achieve. So we had a discussion about two special attributes known as column spanning and row spanning attribute, which spans a single cell to cover multiple cells. Also we had a discussion about the use of tables for layouts. Also we have discussed about additional HTML table tags. Now in today's session we will see about how to style the tables. I mean how to color this table or how to give background settings for our table. Do we need to give some background images to the table, or do we need to give some colors for font, maybe say for headers, in order to distinguish them from data. We can color the data in each column. Got it? So in this session we will have discussion about how to make our table, how we can apply several settings, how we can make our table look style. Okay, we'll have a discussion of style settings to our table. So now let me have a look at agenda of this session. So looking at this slide, so we are going to discuss about at the first what is known as width. I mean what should be the width of our data cell. Next we'll see about height, how I can specify height for our data cell. Next we'll discuss about something known as cell spacing. Okay, in general I'll call it as a spacing. Okay, an HTML table, it's actually cell spacing, implicitly we can call it as spacing. So next we'll have a discussion about cell padding. Okay, what actually padding means we'll see. Then we'll have a discussion about two more attributes, BG, color and background. Okay, what are these attributes used for? At the last we'll have a discussion about one more attribute, align. Like we know, we have heard about align, right? Justification by the left alignment, right alignments, center alignment. Okay, similarly this attribute is used in table. Okay, we'll see what align does. Okay, so now we'll have a discussion about this contents. Now coming to first two, that is width and height. I said the main agenda of this session is to style the tables, right? Clear. So now suppose I want width and height of my particular table should be with some particular pixel or some particular inches or some particular centimeter. Okay, what should be the width of each data cell or a corresponding data cell? Okay, I can specify the width for any data cell using width attribute, and also I can specify height for any data cell using height attribute. Next, there is an attribute known as cell spacing. You should not get confused with cell spacing and cell padding. Okay, let me tell you what is cell spacing. Cell spacing means, it suppose I want to give some space between two adjacent data cells. Okay, cell spacing is an attribute to specify the space or the gap between two adjacent data cells. Clear? So cell spacing specifies gap between two data cells. Now what is cell padding? Cell padding specifies space or gap between the content and the border of the cell. Means cell padding is a gap within the cell. Cell padding is a gap or space within the cell between the contents and the cell border. Got it? So I repeat, what actual cell spacing? You need to know difference between cell spacing and cell padding. Cell spacing is to give some space or to give some gap between two adjacent data cells, whereas cell padding is to give gap within a data cell between the contents and the border. Clear? Hope I think all of you got it. Okay, so now what is the other attribute? BG color. Okay, BG color means suppose I want a particular data cell to be of black color, background should be black color, and so the content will maybe white color. Got it? So BG color in general for a particular data cell. Okay, so when I use a TD tag to create a data cell, right? So in that context, you can specify background color for that particular data cell. You can make use of an attribute BG color. And what does this background means? Background is a table attribute. Background is a table attribute. It adds some background image for a table. For adding a background image to a table. Got it? Now align. Align means now my table will be placed usually in some container. Okay, the means a table is within some container, and suppose I want table should be aligned left in that container, or to be right in that container, or to be in the middle. Okay, we can make use of align attribute. Align is for indicating the alignment of a table in relation to surrounding container. Now I'll show you these attributes with respect to code fragment. Now first we'll have a look at borders. Okay, so have a look at this slide. Look at first web page and the corresponding code fragment table highlighted in red color. So here I specified one property border for table, and that I specified values border should be in solid, and it should be a 1 point, and it should be in black color. So as you can see in web page, the border I specified only border for the table, and you can see it's in solid black color and it's a 1 point. So next code fragment as not only specified border for the table, but also has specified border for data cell. Okay, here you can see the border for data cell is also solid. Got it. Also it's a black and it's a 1 point. So as you can see in the second web page, there are borders both for the table, okay, as well as each data cell. And the border for both table and data cells is a solid black 1 point. Okay, and by default you can see in the second web page there is a slight gap between the corresponding data cells, right? You can see data cells in both the row wise or column wise. Okay, there's a slight gap between adjacent data cells. Now I don't want to give any gap between the corresponding data cells, either in column wise or in row wise. Okay, I mean to say I want the borders of the data cells to collapse each other. Okay, I mean to say, as in second web page, you can see in second web page there's a slight gap between the adjacent data cells, but I don't want that gap. Rather, I want the borders of adjacent data cells to collapse. So there is an attribute known as collapse. So I need to make use of border collapse, and the border collapse has been I means I need to specify border should collapse. Okay, so I'm making that property in third HTML code fragment, and you can see the same on the third web page. In third web page you can see the borders of data cells have been collided. So I think all of you have got cleared with this slide, right? Content in the slide, borders. Now coming to padding and spacing. I said what is spacing? Spacing is nothing but space between the adjacent data cells. Spacing means space between the adjacent data cells. Okay, whereas padding, I said space within data cell between the content and borders. Got it? So I repeat, spacing to leave space or gap between adjacent data cells, whereas padding is to leave gap or space within data cell but between content and the cell border. Okay, so now I will look at the first HTML code fragment. And this table border I have specified, I have even specified collapse, that is every data cell, borders of every data cells are collapsed. Okay, so now I'm using in data cell TD, I'm using on property padding 10 point. Okay, so in the corresponding 10 point means I am specifying now to have a gap between the content and the data cell border. Got it? So you can see in the first web page there is a gap of 10 point between the content and the cell data cell border. Now in the second HTML code fragment, I am using border spacing as 10 point. I said spacing is to leave a gap or space between data cells, adjacent data cells. Now you can see in the corresponding web page, there's a gap between the adjacent data cells. And in this example, I specified, okay, what should be the font size, what should be the font family, and some other attributes. Okay, and I specified even caption, properties for caption, font weight should be like bold. Okay. Now, we had said an agenda. There's one one more attribute, background, right? So I said background as an attribute to specify background image, okay, for a table element. With this background I can also specify background color for any table element, okay. So now let me say in this case, okay, just have a look at this slide, okay. In the first web page and its corresponding HTML code fragment, okay, t table ed, okay. For table row, I am specifying background color with some hexadecimal value. Okay, with some value I am specifying. Okay, that value represents some color, and you can see this table in the first web page for the table header. Okay, there is a background color. Clear? So suppose and also in web page, first web page, you need to observe that for the data cell there are no background color. Suppose for the table body 2 I want background color, okay. For the table body 2 I need background color. I need to make use of t body and tr. Here I need to specify what should be the background color. Clear? Got it? So in the first HTML code fragment first web page, I specified background color for table header using t-ed. Okay. Whereas in the second web page, I specified background color for the table body 2 using t-body. Clear? So this is about how to style the tables. So we had a discussion about width, height, cell padding, cell spacing, borders, background. Okay, with this let me wind up the session. Thank you for listening.